At night, there was a loud knock on the door. Again, someone came uninvited. Who does not sleep, at first glance, in this quiet city? Maybe they are looking for adventure on their own. Is there anyone here who wouldn't be? The guy started shouting at the door. He was holding another person. She was wounded. Whoever you are, please open. He continued to hold the passenger who was disconnected. It means no one. It seems that the house is empty. We will have to wait for the good-natured owner to come out and help. Or maybe he is fast asleep and the boy cannot be heard. Why can't he go to other houses and call someone for help? The guy came right here. Already the 3rd month has passed, during which strangers come to her house and propose. Someone began to approach the boy, but he did not even hear anyone. A beautiful and bright girl with purple eyes appeared behind him. She looked like a princess, but the only thing that gave her away was her clothes, a white shirt, brown pants, and a robe, which made her look like a bandit. Which one is mad this time? She spoke about herself. In this life, at least 2 or 3 insanities are bound to happen. A vivid example of such a situation is that this universe is a novel. The main character was reborn in the world of this unique work. In her head, she depicted herself as a child. But at the same time, she was not embarrassed by all this, due to the fact that she quickly got used to the new life and world. Not every person can let go of the past so easily when there are memories, people from that time. Apparently, there are none left. The girl has let everything go. Now you have to remember about those people who came to her. Such guests are already starting to interfere with life. The one who brought the man put the poor man on the ground, and he himself sat right in front of the door. Now in the life of the Virgin, everything is not just like that. The angry beauty went to those strangers. She wanted to give them an earful. Are they still here? Aren't you going to leave? It sounded in her head. She does not like uninvited guests. Going on a business trip again? Andrew's neighbor came from somewhere. As always, he smiled. A good man, stood next to the girl and crossed his arms on his chest. Yes, by the way, it's very far, answered the girl, putting her hand on her side. After all, I just came back and here it is. How the hell is it? She directed her gaze at the scene as if someone was quietly waiting for the door to be opened. What kind of person is this? Friendly neighbor. 6th. Silver-haired sighed. Memories floated in my head by themselves. The incident happened 2 years ago, due to the fact that someone drove in front of my house. I ran up to this girl. It seems she was sick. I gave first aid, after which she immediately recovered. I myself did not understand what happened, but after this incident, suspicious rumors spread. Sick and wounded people began to be brought to my house, people who needed help. Everyone believed that the good sorceress who lives there will save everyone. After the girl isolated herself, did not open the door to anyone, and did not respond to knocks and calls for help, people began to come much less. It seems that she is evil and does not want to help anyone, but she simply cannot. For her, these events only brought a threat to her business and did not bring benefits, because her profession is not a healer. Get to know the name of this attractive girl, Syrinx, and she is a jeweler, not a bandit as it might seem at first glance. Her shop is located in the western part of the city Crixus, which is the largest city in the empire. It is divided into 5 districts, and the jeweler is located in the first, which is filled with many gambling and auction markets. This girl is still not so simple. She is an illegal jeweler, but she makes good money in this not-so-clean area, where there are many people like her. Her eye is already drawn, as any pebble will be checked for value and authenticity, thanks to experience. Let's return to the present time. Why don't you change your profession to healer? This is how you can earn more money. Andrew offered a not bad option, but whether he was right is already a question. What? Are you out of your mind? How can I do this without a license? The girl was indignant. If I am caught, I will be executed. Not that her neighbor did not know these rules. In this universe, there are special powers such as magic, alchemy, divine power, and spirits, and people who heal others are called healers. Syrinx is one of them, but she hasn't needed this power yet, and she doesn't use it at all. All people who possess special powers are registered in temples, but in order to practice such a profession, you need to get a license. Without it, it is better not to use your powers. Treating without a license is illegal. In cases of violation of this rule, you will be ordered by the temple, or to be more specific, the dog of the temple named Marquis Forsyth. Standard torture is cutting off one or two parts of the body, and who else can have their head chopped off later if they are unlucky? A terrible sight. It is not clear why such serious rules were established. There's no reason I won't do it. I like my current job, answered Syrinx to the interlocutor. I already have a job that I have to do. This phrase has already sounded in the thoughts of the lying girl. The man shrugged his shoulders and raised his palms, spreading them out, showing that he would disengage and didn't mean anything against it. As usual, he smiled politely, big and scary at first glance, but he is a kind uncle. It seems that the guy needs your help. He reminded of the person waiting in front of the door and the injured person with him. Oh, looks like I'll have to deal with them. The girl didn't burn with desire, because this can happen every day. 8! I knew it. You are a great young lady. Andrew specially said it very loudly, after which he laughed out loud. The silver-haired girl was shocked. Her face was written, "Why? Did you do it on purpose?" The guy sitting opposite the door got scared and turned sharply in their direction. "Oh, that's all. I completely forgot about my work. It's time for me. Bye." At that moment, the man quickly ran away. A blow was heard from the closed door. Her jaw barely dropped. "Excuse me." Another obstacle for Syrinx was already approaching with a wave of its hand. Slipped into my thoughts. Andrew the bastard. She was overwhelmed with emotions. She wanted to catch up and repay with the same coin. "Congratulations. Are you the mistress of the house?" The guy ran up to her. "Yes, what, you were looking for me?" She shifted her gaze to him. "My name is Noun." This nickname is used by a person when he does not want to speak or reveal his identity on the street. He put one palm on his chest and bowed a little, introducing himself for politeness. Why does he use a nickname?" She cautiously looked him over, but saw nothing to grab onto. Noble people also often use nicknames. "Then I leave this honorable man to you." The stranger pointed at him with his hand. His physiognomy was strange and confused. Is he really uncomfortable? But Syrinx was not embarrassed by how shy, if someone heard this, they would get the impression that I am engaged in other services. She fantasized the situation in the bar with the phrase of this noun. "This glass is from that man." All the people I treated were honorable people, but who is this man? He doesn't look like a noble. Syrinx echoed in his guesses. "Then I rely on you." He ran away. "Stop, wait. Are you just going to leave?" "Ahoy, sorry." The healer did not expect this. The guy didn't hear her, or maybe he just ignored her. He has something in common with her neighbor. He probably ran away. This man disappeared without a trace. Is he surely an influential person? It seems better not to deal with them anymore. The street emptied. It became quiet and peaceful. Syrinx turned to the wounded man. "Why should I take care of him like he's my patient?" She said angrily, clutching her head with her hands. "Damn, this is not some shelter!" She shouted angrily to the whole street. "Devil." She hunched over tiredly but slowly headed towards the boy, wanting to deal with him as soon as possible, or rather at least to look around. Before her next move was to attack the body, she stopped. Looking up, you could see a big cut all over his chest. The boy's white shirt was all covered in blood around the wound. The girl looked at all this with a neutral expression. She had already seen it many times. After that, she began to think about how she could carry it into the house. It looked heavy. The silver-haired woman sat on the threshold of the house, looking... Oh, she sighed. A lamp stood next to her. Taking out matches, the maiden lit it. It became much easier to see. Although the light factor was small, it is more comfortable and a little warmer with it. Sitting down in front of the boy, she realized that Andrew would be able to help her. But he was angry. It would be easier with him. He is very seriously injured. What happened to him? Was it similar to an attack by an animal or a person? Temptation on his life? Syrinx turned her gaze to the face. She went crazy, jumped away from him, not trusting her eyes. What? Why is he so handsome? But this hair color... Diva looked into his face. Heimdall? A charmingly handsome guy was lying next to her. He looks like a sleeping prince at this moment. Heimdall Vespergo is the son of the Vespergo family, which was once known for its power, but at one point lost everything, a terrible event. He is one of the main characters of the novel and the antagonist. Antagonist, a character who is the main character's enemy and whose struggle plays a leading role in the plot of the work. The girl, looking at him, sharpened her gaze again, as if enchanted. A spark appeared in her beautiful, bright purple eyes. The boy, who had just been lying unconscious, slowly opened his eyes, looking up. His consciousness was just beginning to return, and his mind to become enlightened. Yo. The healer saw that he had woken up. She did not expect this. Heimdall opened his mouth to try to say something. What is he saying? Thought. Syrinx looked at him, watching his attempts to utter at least one word or sound. Parabok suddenly stretched to her wrist. It was quite unexpected for the girl. It seemed that he could not move at all. Maybe he was pretending. Oh, Lord! She fell down in fright and kicked his hand, stomping away. But you can do that with a wounded person who has just regained consciousness. But she may not be beautiful, and even a bandit runs beautifully. What are you allowing yourself? A pretty girl with character, she didn't feel a single drop of sympathy. Although the blonde was not in the best shape, he could still steal the heart of every girl. Their eyes met. Something happened between these two, or maybe it just seemed like it. Who knows? Fate doesn't just bring people together. It's not pleasant, but it can throw up something not extraordinary. It can turn your life upside down. The novel that Syrinx got into was not the most usual, since the first and second parts of the novel have two different main characters, and genres also differed. In the first part of the work, it is told about the main character and her harem, but then she suddenly falls into bad weather and dies. In the second part, the heroine turns out to be a cousin of the heroine from the first part. It tells how she misses her sister. After that, there is a second plotline, where the girl begins to engage in indecent activities with various men. Heimdall Vespergo is the only man who did not have a relationship with the main character of the second part of the work. He's the opposite. Frey, your death is the only reason I'm alive, you know that, don't you? I hated her with all my heart, there were good reasons for that. Hatred for each other passed from generation to generation. The main character's parents kidnapped the Heimdall brothers, and they did it in order to take revenge on their ancestors. In the end, it all ends with the fact that the older brother is killed in front of the younger. The second brother was taken prisoner, chained to his throat with an iron chain with a rim. After that, Heimdall was sold on the slave market where someone bought him. The boy, not for his age, had seen many horrors in his childhood. His eyes at those moments were dead and filled with fear. This boy is so broken that he eventually grows up and becomes the embodiment of revenge. And the main object of revenge was a girl, Frey. The man grew into a stable and extremely intelligent person. He hurt the main character without a drop of mercy. That is why he was the main antagonist. Right at that moment, the girl was next to him and looked at him again. He lies in front of me, the main horror of this novel. The boy looked directly at her with his red eyes, smiling slightly. This made it creepy, knowing what horrors he created. What is on his mind now? What's the expression on your face? Usually they make it like this before killing someone, thought Syrinx, who was trying to figure it out in her head. At one point, his eyes closed and his head fell to one side. Did he pass out? Oh, exhaled with a sound, the girl began to breathe. She had already managed to get all nervous. In her thoughts, according to what is said in the novel, it is better not to cross paths with him. But why did he come to me? The Virgin was annoyed by this. Idiot, I remembered your face vividly, so you know. She shouted angrily at the guy who brought Heimdall. It has not been heard for a long, long time. Maybe that guy was his mentor, but that's just Syrinx's guess. How handsome he is, echoed in my thoughts again, looking at the blonde. Also, Heimdall himself may be one of the 5 feudal lords who rule this area. Both the mentor and the boyfriend are a problem because they know bad people. It is not for nothing that they are the main antagonists. His appearance is just confusing. Well, why don't I leave him here? Near the house, near the door on the street, the girl can't bring him in herself. In fact, nothing bad will happen to him. It's warm outside, and no one will be around him touch. Oh, why do I need this? She brought him a blanket and covered him so that nothing would happen to him. After that, she went to the house. It is better not to bump into this person at night. If you look at him peacefully sleeping, then you would not be able to tell. Handsome scoundrel, I gave you first aid, and in the morning I will decide what to do with you. The girl approached the door, which she had already opened, but before entering, she turned to the sleeping man. The next day was sunny and calm. It was already around 12 o'clock in the afternoon. The sun's rays illuminated the homes of other residents of the city. Meanwhile, Andrew and Syrinx stood in the house, already tired from the load in front of the door. Both had shoulder and back pain. Together, they looked at something, as if there was something in the house that they did not want to remember. Indeed, on the couch was a sleeping Heimdall. The landlady did not even think that she would help him. He was covered with a blanket, but before the injury, he seemed so defenseless. For the first time, I see a person in life who is bigger and heavier than our merchant. Andrew turned to the banker with his confusion. The white-haired man is not so heavy in appearance. The girl sat down on a stool in front of the wounded man and tied a ponytail on her head, gathering her beautiful curls into a pile. It looks like he's alive, she thought, looking. Gold, massive earrings with red stones flaunted on her ears. It was hard not to notice them. Syrinx, the people you saved before. Weren't they all influential people? Said the neighbor who came to help today. During the sentence, he reached for the sandwiches. Must have been hungry all this time. You could close the shop and just marry one of these customers, he said with a smile. It was not a serious conversation, but rather a conversation between good friends or acquaintances. They were all women. The interlocutor cut off his ideas with a smile. The head of the Guild of Assassins, an aristocrat who kidnapped people from the auction hall, a knight who turns a blind eye to crimes, a black sorceress. That's who I came across. But it's a pity, they all like pretty men. A sunny aura emanated from the girl, but still they were grateful to you for your help, for saving their lives. Andrew was extremely uncomfortable with such an answer. Well, you'd better not tell anyone about them, otherwise we won't live long. Ha ha. The man put his hand on his throat. That sandwich won't stick in his mouth anymore. Syrinx knows how to catch up with the atmosphere and scare. However, you have found your first patient. A man so dare, Syrinx. He winked and clenched his fist for her. What is it with your voice and facial expression? She understood his hint, getting angry. Syrinx? Neighbor. Well, what this time? Andrew was already starting to annoy her. She wanted to work on the wounded man. He was already leaving, but before that he said, just in case, I'll tell you. Be careful, okay? He's still a man. Violet eyes looked at him and smiled instead of answering. Don't interfere even when you're worried about someone. This is our unspoken rule with him because you never know who and when can kill you. Sounded in the thoughts of the beauty, after which she added, Okay, thank you. Did it get to the wounded Heimdall? The girl put her hands on her sides. She thought. In order to heal and help, you need to take off your clothes. And what if he has a knife somewhere and he attacks me with it? The girl pictured all this in her head. Oh, the guy started to wake up. They had a short dialogue, my glasses. Here you go. Syrinx handed them over. Thank you. He moved into a sitting position despite the wound and put the glasses on his nose. The girl became uncomfortable. What will happen next? I'm sorry, but who are you? He asked politely, not understanding anything. He looked at her with such a sweet look, his eyes changing color to deep blue or azure. Yesterday you fainted near my house and I saved you, answered the hostess. His cuteness and brightness almost destroyed the girl. You need to behave nice, was in her thoughts. Heimdall grabbed her by the shoulders and jumped off the couch himself. Syrinx didn't expect it. Everything happened so quickly. I suddenly didn't do anything weird. He was very embarrassed, but the girl did not expect these words either. No, I was so tired yesterday that I decided to leave you near the house. I'm sorry, but I wouldn't have brought you here alone. She raised her elbows to the mountain along with her palms. By the way, I'm a little sore. Yo, sorry. He immediately left. Shame appeared on his face. After that, the girl's shoulders began to hurt even more. I'm still not myself. He sat back down and lowered his head, clenching his fists. It was difficult for him. It's just me. I get very strange at night. I'm sorry. He looked down. Excuse me, but should I treat you or not? The girl smiled, interrupting the topic. I gave you first aid, but you can't leave the wound in such a state because of this. You may have an infection. Silver-haired pointed a finger at Heimdall's chest. Ah, well, he answered. Then undress, she said without any intention except to help him. Well, what? Shouted the boy. You don't want me to treat you? Asked a leading question against which you will not go. The man blushed but was embarrassed, after which he looked away. After a few seconds, he began to unbutton his shirt. Now this man does everything I say, follows my every word. In addition, he has a good character and appearance, like a typical main character, which he is. Something interesting was happening in Syrinx's head. Beauty. But the readers gave him a nickname, because he behaves like an innocent sheep during the day and like a ruthless wolf at night. He was nicknamed as Jekyll and Hyde. In other words, Heimdall had a split personality. The reason Syrinx tried to stay away from him as much as possible was because his dark side always woke up in the night. It changes so much that even the color of the eyes changes circles with it. Can I see you? The virgin behaved in a good and polite manner. She looked at his chest, which she had just wrapped professionally with a medical bandage. He has such a beautiful figure. Syrinx was able to see almost everything. Face, chest, waist, abdomen, and then everything was covered by pants. Something happened. Something came to her mind. I want to touch him. I'm sorry. The boy's voice interrupted the healer's dirty thoughts. Aren't you too close? He looked like a big one on the outside, but a small chicken in the soul. Without saying anything, the silver-haired woman looked up, after which she squinted her eyes contemptuously and slightly mockingly. Isn't this normal for a doctor and his patient? I apologize. For a second, the wrong thought came into my head. Good Heimdall was not on his plate. I would like to hear what he thought. Syrinx only smiled in his face, not showing what was inside her. One way or another, blue eyes the color of precious stones, in whose eyes there is much unknown, as if in the sea. The image of a person who is ashamed and restrains himself, a description from the novel. This innocent beauty attracts people, but in the night a second person wakes up and all innocence here is already gone. Excuse me, I would like to ask you something. What you want? Can I touch you? She said in response. Heimdall blushed again and froze. What? What are you saying? He was shocked. I can heal people only through touch. That's why I wanted to warn you in advance. I'm sorry. The guy put his palm on his face and realized that he had messed up. I'm sorry. I'm not used to communicating with the opposite sex. That's why I keep making mistakes. The blonde covered his face dutifully with his palms. Syrinx, meanwhile, carefully reached her hand to the bedside table and took the precious stone. It's okay, but you're going to have to put up with it a little bit, okay? Said the girl. But because of these words, the wounded man fell into a stupor, not understanding anything. What? Please just don't cry. It seems that she was mocking him again. During our communication with you, I noticed that you have a whiny character. The Virgin already said these words with good intentions. Don't laugh at home. This tomato is now bursting with redness. Okay, it's time for treatment and healing. Syrinx raised 2 closed palms that held a precious stone to the boy's body. Her expression was strained. The healer tried to concentrate her strength to start helping. And then a miracle happened. Her palms opened and a very shiny stone appeared from between them. Not a bad sight for those who see it for the first time, but you can also watch it another time. She was so serious at that moment. Heimdall's wounds slowly began to heal and then completely disappeared. He can no longer be called wounded. He was surprised by the process, even shuddered. Or maybe it's because something unusual happened in his body. For example, magic passed through him. The girl finished and removed her hands. Feeling lightness in his body, the blue-eyed man looked at himself and realized that the wounds had completely healed. Nothing remained of them except blood on the bandages. Phew! Syrinx took a deep breath. Are you a healer? It sounded like a banal question, but he is not so stupid as not to understand what she did. Therefore, this is a question about her work. No, I'm doing it illegally. She simply answered this. What? He didn't expect that. So, don't tell anyone what happened here. The boy's injuries were great because she spent more mana than she imagined. She hid the stone behind her back with her palm. You know that illegals are capital punishment, right? I don't want to die. It's so painful for me. This lady spoke without fear and with a calm expression on her face, not like the one who engages in illegal activities. But consider, the rules of the temple also apply to people who were helped by illegal immigrants. Such people have their tongues cut off. Also with a smile, but in a tense atmosphere, not seeming so kind at first glance. Temple. Are you talking about the altar of discipline? I know about their severe punishments. I don't have to tell them about this incident. He spoke with all responsibility. And also don't say anything to Marquis Forsyth. Syrinx raised her index finger to the mountain he indicated. This one point. Absolutely. He understood her. There was a relaxed atmosphere in the air. Meanwhile, the good girl got up and offered to examine his back. The ability to heal people is a sacred gift. In this world, the same opinion, only different rules. Altar of Discipline, the most influential temple in this universe. He represents a group of priests who fight against breaking the rules. The head of this temple at the moment is the Marquis Forsyth. On their coat of arms, which catches the eye even from afar, a hawk is depicted. The head of the family is the paladin Juvan Forsetti, who was nicknamed a hero in the circles of the Empire. As for himself, his obsession with the main character of the first part spilled over into the main character of the second part. This was facilitated by Frey's healing abilities. After the death of the first main character, a powerful healing power came to the second. In other words, this power aroused men's interest in her, but it was frightening. Syrinx is not too happy about this power. Indeed, it is very useful. But will it bring a little trouble? She heals people by extracting magic from gems. Her way of helping is very rare. Therefore, if she is caught, the temple may punish her severely. That's it. I'm done. She patted him on the back with her hand. The boy was still shy from every touch of the girl. If you return to the temple, she was very happy that she is in such a place where it is difficult to find her. And so far no one has come for me. I can do what I was doing. She pondered, looking over her shoulder at the boy who was already buttoning up his white shirt. Heimdall shuddered from the fact that the girl stared at him. She was interested in watching it. What don't you care? Asked the healer after providing help about 10 minutes ago. It's not all right. He thanked her and smiled. Good. Then you can go already. Silver-haired stood by the wide-open door for the boy. The blonde immediately fussed around the hostess. How come he has to go already? But I have to thank you. She, in turn, came up behind him and started pushing him to leave the house. It's not worth it. Where else would you see someone with a smile driving someone out of the house? And to say goodbye. You can do it now. She continued to push the boy towards the door. Goodbye. He appeared on the street, the door was already closed, and he was thrown out like an animal. Syrinx stood at the door. Wow, how good. She was pleased with herself, helped, talked about going to the temple, and accompanied her. This kind of help takes a lot of energy. She was finally done with it. I thought so, but the words formed in her head because of the one who caught her eye. A few days later, she met Heimdall again, and the most important thing. Hello. He looked seductively at the girl in half a turn. Before that, he was a busy man lying under his feet. This event happened at night. Unfortunately, Heimdall and Syrinx's second meeting took place in the middle of the night. That day, the girl was returning home from a very difficult business trip. These damned nobles don't listen to me at all. Shit. It seems that she remembered her failure. Something didn't go according to plan. Hey, Syrinx. Someone suddenly appeared in front of the girl. She lifted her head to see who was calling her, snapping out of her thoughts. I've been waiting for you for a long time. You made some money recently, am I right? He was a short man, looking about 36 years old. As soon as she walked quickly down the street, she stopped and realized that this man was still a pain in her head. This catfish-like man is called Torchy. Somehow he wanted to deceive Syrinx, but he did not succeed. And now he wants to take revenge on her for this. How foolish to take revenge for his failure. On top of everything else, this person is the head of a guild of assassins called Blessings of Darkness. Hey, can you hear me? Came closer, keeping his hands in his pockets. How can you show such an exaggerated face in front of a man? It's disgusting. In this world, unfortunately, there are many men who do not respect women. What? The girl didn't care. She didn't understand why he molested her. Aren't you tired of coming to my place yet? She spoke decisively with a threat. She decided for herself that she did not want to leave her house anymore. She put her hand in her trouser pocket. By the way, you can't even count on your bodyguard. Torchy came up and then brazenly approached the face. I knew he wouldn't be there. Today is Friday, the middle of the month. The man was right. Every Friday the knight does not patrol the city. Instead, he is now drinking in a bar, not that he specially waited for this moment. Silver-haired found a stone in her pants from which she can get mana. Rely on a bodyguard? I didn't even think about this option. The corners of the lips stretched to the mountain. I was just thinking about what a brainless bastard you are. Her grimace was something unsurpassed during taunting. Now she was like the main antagonist, because of her smugness, arrogance, and bullying. You really are worthless. No mind, no face. The girl's big smile and flashing eyes hinted to the guild member that he would soon feel bad. What? He was filled with one emotion: anger. Bitches like you, obedient only when their faces are painted. Syrinx did not listen to him, putting her little finger in her ear. Ah, why are you so excited? You won't take me like that. Oh, are you actually below me? The girl leaned towards him. Kaya, how small. I laughed happily at him. Looks like your brain is small too. She tapped her head with her finger. What? The man was already beginning to tremble with rage. Thinking of something, he reached out to her with his hand, but the girl reacted and moved back. Everything happened in seconds. She took the stone that was in her pocket and wanted to use it, but... Ay. This catfish-like man shouted and grabbed his hand. The guy who just appeared helped the beauty. Oh my God, what's going on here? Even at such a late hour. A stranger with glasses and blonde hair. Syrinx turned to him and saw that this guy was Heimdall. What is he doing here? Who are you? The bandit tried to punch him, but he dodged. After that, he swung his leg and hit a weak opponent on the leg. For the evil Heimdall, it was like killing an insect. Hand! Ah! Torchy fell, the other crawled into his pants pocket. Who am I? He took out a small dagger and twisted it in his hand. With a light movement of the fingers, the dagger flew into the hand of the lying man. Yo! Hello. He bent his head in her direction and looked at her with his bright red eyes. Syrinx froze in turn. Her heart began to beat faster in her chest, but she did not take her eyes off him. The guy took off his glasses. It seems he began to approach her. You know me, then you know why I came to this alley. Looked from top to bottom. If you tell me how it was, I won't kill you. The girl understood that this situation was dangerous for her. Her gaze went downwards. Instead of innocent blue eyes, unfamiliar, terrifying, murderous red eyes are now looking at her. She jumped in, bumping into him again. Maybe it wasn't just a coincidence. After, the maiden remembered what horrors the night Heimdall did. Even if you give me everything possible, I will not take it. The only thing I need is your cut throat. He once addressed Freya. But now the madman seems to be in a playful mood. He continued to look at her, smiling slightly. Somehow he is silent for a long time. It's better to do as he said. Syrinx made a decision. The boy added after not hearing an answer. Don't even try to doubt. The maiden clutched the stone in her hands. It's strange, I'm sure you know me for sure. But why can't I remind you? He took out another dagger. Standing in front of him, she already wanted to act and somehow escape. The unexpected happened, but not for Heimdall. A small sword flew into his back. His reaction and intuition allowed him to predict this and deflect the blade. The girl froze, frightened herself. Hellbad. It was Torche. He seemed to have passed by a long time ago, and he is already rushing with a cold weapon while standing with the help of his partner who ran here. Shit. Do you think I will allow myself to be humiliated? Damn you, Syrinx. She didn't even hit him. I will not forgive you for this. And why me? He hit you, and why am I here? The silver-haired one pointed at Heimdall. You think I don't understand why you brought him here? You charmed him and made me hit you. The man had to find an excuse for his weakness. How did you even come to this? Syrinx was impressed by his logic. Well, wait, you will still pay for the way you assaulted a member of the Blessing of Darkness. Come on, it's better to be clean. I didn't do anything to you. Even if you ask, I won't touch you. What? Because you're a freak. The girl started pointing her finger at him and laughing at him. Heimdall was watching her at the time. Haha, I am an aesthete. I like handsome guys, so the character is reflected in the appearance. Understand? Therefore, I will never choose you. You can go. Her words can be taken as wild emotional bullying. Yeah, shut up, the man shouted to the whole street. Didn't you know that your people say the same about you? Syrinx added. What? He did not understand whether these words were true or not, and his partner became nervous. They say that your face and your nature are all ugly, said the girl, smiling. She tapped her finger on the head, giving a hint that he should think. Let go, I'll kill her. The bandit began to indignantly break out of his comrade's grip. Boss, we have to go now. It will be dawn soon. Yuck. His subordinate's words stopped him a little. So go while you can walk on your feet. Syrinx added fuel to the fire. Does? Her look changed to the evil side, alarming. Do you want to have a good time this time? The girls just kept on stepping on him. Torchy froze at what he heard. The man's answer came. Don't think that you can be rude to me every time. I will paint your face and send it to the 5th district for sale. The silver-haired one began to speak her fate again with a smile. Yes, make sure you don't die before this moment. She arched an eyebrow. Ugly, as always, succumbed to the provocation and screamed from his overflowing rage. Boss. The girl froze looking. She was absolutely disgusted with this bandit. Hey! Suddenly another voice rang out. It belonged to Heimdall. Syrinx turned around with a serious look. It is very easy for her to put on and take off the masks of emotions. And you girl is cold-blooded. He was watching her all this time. She turned her gaze downwards to the right side. At the same time, her body posture was ready that she might be attacked now. Her feet were shoulder-width apart. Her hands were fists. There was no one else with them. They were alone. If he hears it, everything will be fine. Before I ask your name, I want to know, what kind of relationship did you have with your husband? The white-haired man pointed a dagger at her. It seems that he has several of them with him. Well, at the first meeting he wanted to rob me. The girl spoke convincingly as she looked at him, no longer looking away, but with eagle eyes. But he failed, am I right? Heimdall put the point next to the mouthpiece's throat, and she didn't even move. In short, the answer is yes. This guy can easily kill her in the middle of the night. The girl did not look away. After understanding, one movement to the right or to the left, and after that she is no one. Okay, from now on, answer in the same way. From the look, he was as if enchanted by her, or maybe he was tempted by a new victim. Like that? So, why do you run away from the answer every time? Red Eye moved closer to her ear. I want you to tell me everything. What exactly? She was not comfortable. I want to know how you know me. The girl was holding a stone in her hand. I live in constant running, but I hardly see anyone. She looked away. How do you know me? Again, the question was repeated for her personally. Let's go down and talk. We have a long conversation ahead of us. Without waiting for an answer, he spoke. I want to know what memories connect us with you. Their conversation moved to the house of Syrinx. Did you save me? Heimdall asked. They were sitting across from each other. Yes. The girl's hands were tied with a rope and she was sitting on the floor, and the boy was on a chair. They were separated by a couple of meters. The silver-haired woman was already beginning to regret the way she treated him, that she got into none of her business, or he wouldn't get angry because of the help. The one sitting in front of her heeded her gaze, and not only that. His shirt was unbuttoned. Of course, everyone doesn't care about me because of my appearance, but he is a fastidious man. As soon as he entered the house, he immediately wrapped my arms. The train of thoughts ended there. Ah, that's the thing. I was thinking about how my wounds could heal so quickly after the attack. So it was your fault? He said with a smile. Of course it's called help, not guilt, answered the maiden. The problem is that I'm one of those people who love pain. It seems like the man made Heimdall the perfect thief. As a result, he lost all power and employment, finding himself in poverty. Syrinx assumes this refers to his mentor, and she is still surprised how he survived. Hey, after I told you everything, can you let me go? But you can't even thank me for the treatment. She smiled to soften the atmosphere. Huh, you're not easy to drive crazy, am I right? Even in such situations, you are moved. It's the norm for life in this place. Diva began to go through her fingers, lifting one by one. Kidnapping, extortion, hooliganism, all people living in the city have faced such things more than once. The words echoed in her head. Besides, I already know your flawed personality, so there is nothing to impress me from your side. At the same time, she looked away. My hands already hurt. She raised them in the direction of the boy. Can you untie me? And you speak quite calmly. Is it all because of the confidence that you won't die? His eyes lit up, the thief stood up. Syrinx did not expect these actions. He came up and squatted down in front of the girl, already calmed down. I woke up a few days ago. There was an address I didn't know lay in my room. No matter how calmly he spoke, the bound man looked hostile. I, an inquisitive person, Heimdall continued. Vrodliva understood. He is Tumashi, regardless of whether it is day or night. But during the day, he does not make unnecessary body movements because he does not have any confidence in his actions. Heimdall personalities don't remember each other's memories. This makes them sensitive, because they don't know what happened while one of them was asleep. Daytime. Heimdall does not remember what happened at night. Nocturnal does not remember what happened during the day. Nocturnal guy, generally obsessed with wanting to know what happened while he slept, and that's too bad for me. I just arrived today. Apparently daytime Heimdall wanted to meet with me, but could not do so because of my departure. But the wrong Heimdall came to me. It must be that the night boy himself decided to come to me. But why? He clearly has an interest in me. What exactly did I interest him in? What are the reasons why he didn't immediately kill me and start this show? The blonde started a new conversation. It looks like you're an illegal healer. He lowered his sleeve. The girl felt horror and anger at his reckless actions with her. Well, what are you doing? Stop! She began to shout at him with all her effort so that he would not cut the fool. A sound was heard, a deep cut of the skin, closer to the middle of the hand. He was holding a dagger in his right hand. Dark red blood was dripping from it. There was enough oozing from the wound to spread to the white gloves and then to the floor. And you will cure it? It was already too late to stop him. The girl's face showed disgust. Psycho, softly thought, looking at the boy who was smiling, having just cut himself. He wants me to prove my words, but why does he need to? Doesn't he already believe? Okay, let's skip. Syrinx turned to Heimdall. My abilities are expensive. Then why did you help someone like me? To answer. Because you didn't behave like you are now. Is that what the daytime I told you? Yes, you warned me that you act strangely at night. Yes, it is. The girl covered the thief's wound with her palms. Despite the fact that I help people, I really don't like to watch blood. In her head, she looked at the wound with pity. Without stones, only with her own efforts, the healer began to cast spells. It was more difficult for her than with them. Wow. For the truth, you healed me. How did you manage? He said, it is clear from the intonation that he actually considered the girl a liar. The eyes were filled with admiration as they looked at their hand. Zadakena looked at him with thoughts. Now maybe he will let me go and go to his house. Girl, I'm sorry if I scared you. The antagonist approached her. But it's too interesting. You are the first person who sat calmly at the moment when she was threatened. He came very close to her face with his. He did not threaten the girl or anything else, but admired her. Everything happens for the first time, she replied. Now Heimdall will continue the dialogue for a while. The first one, who says something like that. Probably because I used to kill others right away. The girl flashed her eyes menacingly. What do you think about that? And the thief at this moment spoke with a smile, carefully watching her reaction. I don't know. Did she plan something? I think that if you wanted to kill me, you wouldn't have slowed down and done everything at once. Judging by the boy's reaction, she got right to the point. You don't look like those who will doubt whether to kill or not. I believe that you are one of those who love... The ropes fell from the hands of the hostage. Catch the enemy by surprise. That's what kind of person you are. Free hands went to Heimdall, who was just caught off guard. He was beaten for the first time. I am right? She aimed her magical powers at the stunned boy. A glow appeared from the palms. The killer was pushed back into the wall, after which he reacted and took out a dagger, intending perhaps to kill the girl or to strike. Syntate! The silver-haired healer directed one hand at him, casting a spell. Her opponent froze, but could not move. Syrinx came up, after which she took the dagger. Now everything is the other way around. Affected? She had an evil smile on her face. The physiognomy changed to arrogant. But I will not apologize. Did you act too cocky, think everything was so easy with me? Kind-hearted pulled the rope in her hands. Now the blonde won't be able to move. That won't happen if this girl is around. What did you just do to me? He fixed his tiny pupils on her. Diva immediately began to explain. Yes, I heal people, but I also know and practice spells that will protect me. As an illegal healer, I should have that insurance, right? After the words, the fearless woman came closer and looked directly into his eyes. But on others, I could not use the spell, since it works only on the opposite sex. It's good that you're a man, she added at the end. The eyes of an abnormal person can tell a lot, how at that moment the boy's interest in the girl who was able to stop him grew even more. I hope you will not be offended because of the way I treated you. That is, the same as you. What are you going to do with me now? Heimdall asked a good question, but it did not knock the girl out at all. and at the same time made her think, some animals spoil the economy. What? He was angered by such an answer. But I'll let you go. One more thing. I'll make it a day. You could look at her mocking smile forever. And what will happen after? If I come back, you will be in danger. This was a warning from the boy. Then I can make it so that my spell will last for a month. In turn, he remained silent. Look at him. It seems that he does not mind. All this time, the maiden sat across from him, supporting her head with her hand. I won't forget this. Funny, but aren't you the first to do this to me? Vanity rules her. I am an egoist, Tverdo answered firmly, so you better hope the magic helps you. It's clear how much my life is dear to me. The breasts of the novel's main antagonist caught the eye of a violet-eyed woman. They anointed their eyes every time they looked at the man, but now they can be considered the best. Syrinx closed her eyes and pulled herself together. By the way, what did the spell sound like? Syntate, are you talking about him? The girl stood up. The killer's main weapon remained in her hand. And that means, sit down. Huh. Looking at him from top to bottom, at how he sighs and in general, he looks like a dog in some sense. Good night then, doggy. Syrinx waved at him, all blushing, and left with a sense of relief. The next day, as a result, when the boy found out what happened, he shouted, I will take responsibility. Heimdall began to wake up, his hands and feet bound as they should have been. He still sat on the floor. The hostess was standing in front of him with her head raised. She was watching him, but she did not expect that the boy would wake up now. Sleepy looked sweet with narrowed eyes and an innocent face. But after a couple of seconds, horror and a wild impression appeared on his face. Oh, glasses, said Syrinx, holding them in her hand with a sullen face. The boy was also excited, shaking his head in different directions, looking for his accessories. My glasses. But it was in vain, being tied up and with poor eyesight. The girl came closer and crouched in front of him, putting glasses on the blonde's head. His clear blue eyes widened, and his savior appeared in front of them. A warm smile stood out from her lips. Here, she said, and untied the ropes. The moment of enchantment ended, but the stupor began. The guy fearfully asked, didn't I do anything bad at night? Worried about his bad side, he did not want to harm her. Well, how to say? Diva pulled her eyes to the upper left side, remembering, but her appearance gave the impression that nothing happened yesterday. What? What have I done? Heimdall expected everything, even the worst. I don't even know what to say. As usual, Syrinx liked to make fun of him because he didn't understand it. An idea came to this woman's head. You were harassing me, she answered calmly. The boy fell into a stupor again. The girl looked questioningly and smiled. Wet drops appeared on the floor. Couldn't help it. Dobriak bowed his head to her. Tears of guilt flowed from his eyes. Syrinx was bewildered, not understanding why he was crying. Had her antics gone too far? Heimdall raised his tearful face, his eyes red and salty droplets running down his cheeks. Wow, and where is that bandit? Syrinx thought, fascinated by his handsome face while shedding a tear during his appearance. The guy tried to gather his thoughts while his interlocutor watched. She was interested in what he would say or do next. I will take responsibility, muttered the crybaby quietly. And again Heimdall surprises the Virgin with his words. She did not think at all that everything would turn out like this. I'll take responsibility so that it doesn't happen. What? In both, they sat in awkward silence, staring at each other. Maybe each of them was waiting for an answer. Syrinx continued the conversation. How are you going to take responsibility? Well, he looked away shyly. I will choose. No need, interrupted the girl. The blonde hadn't finished yet, but she already understood what he meant. But you yourself said that yesterday I harassed you. All in despair, not even the drops have dried yet. No, I was joking. It was a joke. The girl laughed, supporting her head with her hand. She did not understand how these two personalities were in one person. More correctly, she understood that it was the same person, but she was surprised. Then, let me ask, why did I wake up tied up? The already playful gaze of the silver-haired girl was directed at the innocent boy. You threatened me. This answer infuriated the daytime Heimdall. He wanted to say something, but immediately he could not, closing his mouth. Did I hurt you? He asked firmly. No, but you were with a dagger. Fortunately, I have some skills to protect myself, because of which you could not hurt me. As always, Syrinx answered calmly. There are 3 categories of people who need to be extremely careful in our lane. These are the elderly, women, and children. The only question is why people don't want to leave here. After all, they have their own benefit from living here. This is not a reason to brag, and nothing in particular. But I just want to explain. In this area, everyone gets away with it as best they can. What kind of look is that? The girl did not understand why he was looking like that, and in fact, he stared with rapt eyes. Sorry, could you please help me this time too? Heimdall shouted, approaching her. The healer moved back. Help you? I understand that I am an unscrupulous person. I don't know what to say anymore, but if you help me, I will do everything. The interlocutor began to speak calmly. After that, he began to get nervous, due to self-doubt. I know I'm asking a lot, even after what I've done, but you've already told me. The silver-haired woman interrupted his flow of words, covering the boy's face with her palm. Calm down. Syrinx isn't used to seeing him so confused, but you can't just trust him like that. I'll definitely listen to you, but I try not to get involved in the affairs of those I've treated. But I don't want to have anything to do with you. She pointed her index finger at Heimdall sitting in front of her. The boy's gaze sadly went downwards. In that case, will you listen once? It is connected with the night me. With the night you? She was interested. It was visible from her whiter than before eyes. Yeah, I can't imagine how you'll look at me when I tell you. The girl's attention was drawn to his next words. But we don't remember how anyone spent their time, he admitted. Syrinx already knew this, but managed to look different. Yes, it looked just like that. She thought she'd better listen to why he was telling this. Heimdall continued. Night, I is planning something, but I can only guess what it could be. I can only guess. I can't stop him. Does this have anything to do with your injury that night? Yes, that's right. How is it? But someone brought you here? She added. Do you know the person who ordered you to stay here? The blonde nods. Yeah, I guess I relied on him for a while. This person. He looked up and was interrupted by Diva for the umpteenth time. She raised her index finger to his lips. Enough. Rather than be drawn into all this and suffer damage sooner or later just by hearing his name, the healer preferred that she would rather not hear anything at all. You cannot tell. Everything is fine. She charmed the dayboy again with her kindness and beauty. He blushed. Then he lowered his head. But... Syrinx listened to him attentively without looking away. Are you that uncomfortable? What? The girl was in doubt. Am I that terrible? Heimdall crossed his fingers, waiting for an answer. Are you about looks? Maybe for this reason you said you didn't want anything to do with me. She tilted her head to the side, her brain still not thinking. It's a little depressing. I know I'm not in the right position right now. The guy clenched his hands in a lock. But I'm not as horrible as you think. Everything did not reach the Virgin either, or she did not understand what to say in response. Her singing phrasebook turned red again, but these are not the words that make you blush. Syrinx began to be analyzed. One gets the impression that he did not mean that at all. I don't understand why I was thrown here. I'm really very sorry. He was ashamed of himself. Because of what he brought to the healer, there was a lot of trouble. If I'm left here again, can I ask you to be cured as then? He approached her. I will repay with anything. The girl put 2 fingers on his lips, because of which he shuddered. You can't say something like that to anyone. What? In cities like my district, the most careful should be language. Her gentle hand reached for the interlocutor's chest, pulling the edge of his unbuttoned shirt to the side. What decision will you make when someone at some point... Bang! Would you like to ask for something special? Heimdall even opened his mouth out of embarrassment. After that, Silverhair poked her finger into Samison's chest. Was something special? It sounded in the head of the innocent. The girl poked him in the chest. What? Resounded in his head. How will you act if you are asked for everything possible? Will you pay with your body? She smiled. The boy crawled back. The hand touching Heimdall's skin hung in the air. He pointed his index finger uphill. Do you mean physical labor? I'm doing a good job. Still, she lowered her hand. Judging by your wound, it's not like that at all. The blonde froze, holding his finger as his last excuse. He shuddered and blushed. After that, he covered his face with his palm out of sadness. There are many evil things happening in this city. Syrinx spoke, she thought. If you spread your brains, there is a high probability that such a handsome man will be sold into slavery in the 5th district for a debt. It is clear that this is not the kind of person who will meekly allow himself to be kidnapped. This man was already sold into slavery, but he mercilessly burned the market of slave owners. But turned it into a fire, most likely? The maiden clapped her hands. Well, okay. She decided that she would not make fun of him. I will do what you asked. Heimdall said nothing in response. He froze again from her kindness and charm that resembled pink roses. That means... At his answer, the girl nodded her head. So I will treat you. The boy was happy. Syrinx has a very important goal. To find a special gem, everything else is just auxiliary. If the main characters take the stage, then the secondary characters lose their significance and importance and become a shadow. For this purpose, the more around the main characters or influencers, the better. For example, Heimdall. True. Thank you. I didn't expect you to respond to my request. He scratched the back of his head. He didn't cover his face anymore, but his cheeks were still pink. To be honest, I was already thinking about how best to ask you. I thought you would refuse me. How clever, the girl noticed, but she knew that after some time the boy would understand the most important ability of his self-recovery. In the meantime, she decided to be his first aid kit for a while. The thing is, I don't really like to look at people who are bleeding, said Syrinx. The fact that she heals several times will not change the story of the novel. Besides, after a while, this man who forgets about small favors will face a big and terrible event. But after what will become the final boss? Thanks. Heimdall thanked, but the girl thought that it was not worth it. There is no need to thank me for this. The service will not be free. She poked her index finger at the floor. Why did you so naively believe that I would be so kind to you? The boy did not expect this. That's how. What do you want? Syrinx narrowed her eyes and smiled. What can you do for me? She stared at him. Well, I'm not that stupid, he answered, adjusting his glasses. The words came to the girl's head. I know it very well. You have the most outstanding intelligence of all the characters who appeared in both parts. The S appearance isn't bad either. True, the healer confirmed. I cook well, but there is a lot of money. Emboldened, he threw up options for couples. And the interlocutor just giggled. How come I also have a lot of money? The girl retorted. His good looks work very well on her, but not so much that she was very interested in it. You don't need to cook. I eat by buying food from a neighbor. Andrew owns a restaurant with cheap food. She was always quick to eat his cooking. I don't know about the mind either. But Syrinx understood that it is impossible to find a better strategist in this book, even if he is a thief. She stood up from a sitting position, and the boy watched in amazement. Appearance, too. She approached and bent down to his face, being about 10 centimeters from him. She put one palm on her chin and the other on her forehead. The maiden looked straight into her eyes. But isn't he a forbidden fruit for her? He looked away and immediately blushed from her touch. But then he turned to something that could attract his attention besides the girl. The guy jumped up and pointed, smartly adjusting his glasses. And what about financial jobs? It's about those bills. They were attached to a board a couple of meters from him. Squinting, he saw what was written on the papers. The value from the middle has changed. You did not multiply correctly. The difference is 9,097 units, and with a similar method of calculation, it is more convenient to count vertically, not horizontally. The guy found a loophole. Meanwhile, Syrinx was looking at Heimdall and back at the board. Did you see that? The girl was impressed by his stardom, despite the fact that he wears glasses. He has unsurpassed physical data. I have good eyesight, haha. He rubbed the back of his head. Then, your glasses, no, nothing. At the last moment, she changed her mind to ask. Syrinx went to the closet thinking, did he understand everything in 1 second? After that, she took a sheet in her hands. Too early to judge, but haven't you been following the market? The guy approached her. Why do you think so? I assumed, looked at the calculations, supply, assortment, but I see that in some places the routine is violated. I quickly count the following. The girl smiled at his remark. She clutched a piece of paper in her hand. Was there such a mess here? Exactly. I wrote in general terms. It is clear that there will be a house there. I often do this kind of work, so I'm sure of it. And I can't even keep records in the thoughts of a virgin. In other words, he wants to become my accountant and secretary. She understood. Syrinx pretended not to even know what to do, placing her hand on her chin. But still she nodded to him, albeit with a not entirely approving physiognomy. Daytime Heimdall beamed with pleasure. I will try hard. He smiled at her. Give it to me. It dawned on her that they wouldn't see each other often anyway, but did she have her first regular client? By the way, how about the night you? What if he comes to me and not you? I would like to avoid the night knife brawl. Just turn it off and that's it, answered the blonde quite calmly. Hit with a pan swing, and, perfect if only on the ribs, continued to provide options. You can do whatever you want with him. He spoke in a way that made it seem that it was not his body that would receive these blows in pain. Okay, all the same. We will deal with your treatment during the day. The maiden responded. So, I'll be careful enough not to damage you. He spoke with a big smile. Not that he hoped that he would not do anything. Meanwhile, at night, yes, that's how it was. Syrinx thought she was watching something. Oh, the night boy passing by in front of her house breathed loudly. But again, the silver-haired woman got into such a performance. In her opinion, she just left the house, as he is here. Crouching down, she tilted her head slightly like an interested bird. My dog, weren't you brought here? Is it possible without a gift from the noble gentleman this time? She turned to the poor man with a smile. You better stop this common way of speaking right now. The phrase sounded threatening. He was in no mood to speak kindly to her. The healer laughed softly. Heimdall continued to crawl with great effort. There is not even a living place on it, Syrinx thought. She did not know what to do with him. Hey, Day, you told me that I can turn off the night. You. He turned his head towards her. What kind of delusion is my lady? Delirious? He spoke so cheerfully, he recommended to cut you down with a pan. I looked at him up and down. She spammed which he even says which is better. He chose a large rectangular one. And what, will you really do it? His look changed to evil. The maiden noticed his eyes, she understood. If I touch him, it seems that we will both die. It has my spell on it, but the extra care won't notice. Hey, I don't know if I should inform you about your condition. It's a great luck that you're still alive. Silverhair managed to analyze his wounds several times during this time. Laps, puncture wounds, wow, even burns? Being so exhausted, it's amazing that you're still conscious. Heimdall shuddered at her words. Again he raised his gaze from the asphalt and directed it at her. Milady. In such moments, don't they use the word battled, and not tired? He was overcome by rage just because of her words. Sitting confidently, the girl put her hands under her chin and twitched. I did not say that I came here after I was beaten. I said that while looking at your appearance. This is a logical assumption, not a fact. Are you not aware of this? When you come somewhere covered in wounds, everyone can think about something like that. No. Heimdall got up on his knees and put his hand on his chest. The shirt, half unbuttoned, showed a large wound, similar to the mark of a knife or a sword. Ordinary people ask where I hit the blade. If you take into account my nature, you will understand that I am not the kind of person who will simply be a beaten opponent. In turn, Syrinx began to speak confidently. Day, you said. But she was interrupted. A scumbag by day can only guess what I do at night. He definitely doesn't know anything. Leaned on his arm. After that, he got up. But now he was looking up and down. What do you know about me? The virgin stood his gaze on her. Thoughts raced through her head. Damn, he picked on my words. Agov, you have such an expression on your face as if you are going to strangle me right now. Heimdall, bent over from wounds all over his body, continued, piercing her with his red eyes. Hey? He twisted his eyebrows and the corners of his lips into a fierce smile. A magical green-blue stone flew up, sparkling. I saved you last time, do you know that? Syrinx spoke proudly and decisively. The magic of her hair raised her gray hair a little. Do you think I'm so weak because I'm nice to you? He fell to his knees again, after the healer applied the spell of the curse she put on the boy. I dreamed so. Don't you think that these are not the words that someone who survived with my help can say, Mr. Insolent Dog? She scratched her head indignantly. It looks like I have absolutely nothing else to do. In a situation where you even have to fall in front of you and bow down. Did I force you to thank me at least once? She stood up, kicking a small wooden box standing nearby. Yes, I know your type well. A person who, for the sake of his own goal, will fight with a serial killer. Such a prudent person that if necessary, he will stick a knife in the back of his parents. Well, this trait is important if you live at the very bottom. But there is no purpose in looking in front of me as disdainfully as today, she added, finishing his report, after which she came closer. But who decided that? Shut up, commanding speech. You are not going to hurt me in any case. You must live. Coming even closer, the maiden touched the corner of his lips, wiping away the blood. He did not say anything in response. What shall we do? Aren't you going to disappear right now? She said these words out of spite because Heimdall looked at her very evilly. For the silver-haired woman, it is only a small thing to cure him. In any way, as soon as he has the power of healing, he will stop coming to me, so it will not matter. I will continue to pretend that I am not up to anything. Slipped into my thoughts. Do you still have the strength to fire at me like that? She smiled awkwardly. The antagonist kept well in this state. Syrinx looked at his wounds once more and thought, treating him now is dangerous. He won't die because of my healing, but serious injuries can cripple him. In particular, it is necessary to mend his broken arm as soon as possible. The girl took a skein of rope that hung all the time on her belt. What are you doing? She sat down, taking his wrist. Heimdall couldn't move because of the spell. I bind. I also have my own opinion about tying animals. Stupid Mr. Thief. After which she tied his hands securely. If you want to die, you can keep talking. The boy threatened, to which the girl froze, looking at him. Pfah, she smiled, thinking about something. In a second, she made a more melodious voice. Serene. She turned her head to one side. More. She turned her head in the other direction. Doesn't want to mess around. Made cute little eyes, spreading them. He was beaten to the point of severe wounds. There was nothing to say. The expression on Heimdall's face was all you had to see. It radiated irritation. If you hit me with that big fist, I'm weak. I'll cry bitterly from fear, right? What should I do if I let you into the river because of my own mistake? If you fall tide, my God, you will not be able to get out of the bottom of the river. Syrinx dramatically covered her mouth with her hands. Milady, I am much more caring than you think. Ah, yes, like the day you swung your dagger very carefully. Your eyes don't look scared. Heimdall scolded, approaching, after which the girl's face changed. She stepped back. If I was scared, you would like it. Are you a pervert? I lost. The boy lowered his head. The virgin touched him with her hand and began to do her job. To heal. Huh? The blonde was not breathing evenly. How much longer? Gem healing is painful and takes some time. Who asked to come to me again everywhere with injuries? Again, Syrinx turned her voice into a child's voice. Be patient. If you are patient enough, I will give you a candy. She lightly slapped him on the shoulder. What is this? In the next moment, the healer concentrated to speed up the aid. She already put her second hand to help Heimdall. He closed his eyes in pain. The girl removed her hands, looking furtively at the martyr. Her hand reached into her pocket, placing the stone, taking out another one that is already orange, bright green. Don't treat the body in any way if it makes you sicker. You won't find a way back, she said to the interlocutor. Of course he would understand. The guy looked carefully and silently from under his forehead, but then he still said, You say from your own experience? Who knows? The deep wounds slowly tightened, until they turned into small wounds. Now raise your head, Syrinx commanded. Why the head? He raised it and asked, Need to mend the neck. The wounded man reacted to this by closing his eyes, tilting his head to the side and biting his lip, hinting with all his looks that he did not want to. It hurts here. Her eyes showed pity, even despite the fact that he is a pathetic killer. The silver-haired woman did not understand how he endured such pain, how serious the abuse he was going through all this time. If you look so calmly, you must have had a similar life too. Everyone has their own circumstances, right? In places like this, one of the two things is usually unceremoniously displayed, the injured victim or the guilt-ridden defender. The silver-haired squint, thinking about his words. In the next moment, Heimdall took her hand and pulled her to him. Let's see, you don't feel a disgusting guilt-like feeling. Her palm was at the level of the speaker's face. Continued, Mercy? He looked into her eyes. They say that everything is written on the face. Have you experienced similar pain, or has someone close to you suffered from it? I don't have to answer that. Milady, how annoying, but I can read faces perfectly. Syrinx raised her hand to her neck and used her powers again. Like, I wish you could perfectly recognize my face, which has lost weight from your treatment. Here. The girl stood up, taking the wooden box by the handle above her. Treatment is over. She turned around and went to the door of her house. I left. But before she took hold of the door handle, she stopped, realizing that now is the perfect weather to die like a dog. It is already the end of winter, but it is still cold in the alley where there is no streetlight. Although the treatment is over, Syrinx cannot cope with the exhausted energies and fatigue. Listen. She turned to the boy, and he in turn raised his head towards her, still sitting. I'll give you a chance to choose. Will you sleep tied there or promise me something and fall asleep in a warm city? Something to promise? What can it be but a promise to behave well? Hearing this, Heimdall just looked at her silently and indifferently. Seeing this, the maiden understood that with such a facial expression they do not compromise. You don't want to, you don't have to. After that, she turned around and headed for the door again. I promise. The antagonist never ceases to amaze, having uttered this word with foreboding. The silver-haired woman stopped. Tell me the terms faster. Look at this brazen behavior. Conditions, there are almost none of them. Kindness is free. Are you suggesting I check it out now? Syrinx put the box on the ground. What's wrong? Do you think all people in the world are like you? If you want to find a reason, let's do it this way. First of all, as you said, I am a person who has already suffered. She raised one finger. Secondly, I have 2 younger children. They were beaten by their father, and after severely damaging their eyes, Heimdall listened indifferently. I can no longer just look at wounded people like that. That's all, thanks for the explanations. And now, a prerequisite to enter my house. She brought him a red stone, which was the same color as the killer's eyes. Swear on this precious stone. You are a multifaceted person. He did not expect. Ya'ak, baby thief, repeat after me. Now I'll live like a good boy. Don't talk nonsense and talk normally, okay? The girl's words provoked him a little. From the tone of his voice, she knew it wasn't going to work. Tonight, she continued, in the event of an action contrary to the intentions, Syrinx, I will pay the appropriate fee. Syrinx, muttered the boy. Okay, I'll do as you said. If I break my oath, what will be the price? Diva smiled widely. Nothing special. In case of breach of oath, you will find yourself firmly chained. If you follow it, there will be no problems. Heimdall swore, and then they entered the house. You can use the sofa today. The landlady pointed at it with her finger. No factor of light shone in the house. Milady, will you get back up? I would like you to be next to me. He looked at her attractively. It seems that my body is starting to burn. In your place, I would have rested sweetly instead of talking all kinds of nonsense. I looked at him with disgust. Heimdall left and sat down on the couch. Getting up? He asked, tilting his head to the side. No, as I said, I am a busy person. Money will not earn itself if you sit in one place. I went to the workplace. The door opened and the bell rang. Heimdall turned his attention to them. A visitor visited them. The person who looked in was an elderly man. His face was covered by a black top hat as well as his jacket. He walked over and stood in front of Syrinx's desk, leaning on his cane. I love you, client. She began to speak in a friendly and cheerful manner. You haven't come for a long time. What can I help you with today? Ha! Heimdall coughed from this surprise, at which Syrinx pierced him with a look. You have, as always, luxurious greetings, noted the client. Do we need to change, Mr. Visitor? The hostess spread her hands to the sides. Like a precious stone, our courtesy and trust lasts a very long time. This is a strict rule of our institution. The man took out a full bag from under his coat, but in front of him, adjusting the cylinder closer to the face, the silver-haired woman quickly focused her gaze on one detail. His hands were shaking, the girl was guessing. Shaking? Why? It flashed in my head. Payment with gold coins as usual? Yes, he spoke uncertainly. Please, faster. His whole body went limp. He pulled the scarf away from his throat. The banker turned away, suspecting something. Interesting. A regular customer who brings good things every time. It's strange that today he somehow gives me a bad feeling.